I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and behind me is the brand new Lexus GX. And this is one of the most anticipated four-wheel drive releases of the next 12 months. Under the skin, the GX is the Lexus luxury adaptation of the new Toyota Land Cruiser Prado. And this is actually my first ever time seeing it in the metal. But I won't just be doing a static walk around for you today, we'll also be taking the GX4 a drive, our first drive here in the shadow of Mount Fuji in Japan. Pretty cool place to experience the GX. And this isn't any old GX, this is actually the Overtrail trim, which will be coming to Australia as a standalone GX grade. You'll notice things like the all-terrain tyres, very knobbly, the 18-inch wheels, and we've got mechanical changes like the EKDSS suspension system shared with Toyota. Under the bonnet of this GX550 is a 3.5 litre turbocharged petrol V6 engine, which will be the launch powertrain for the GX in Australia. So what is this luxury off-roader really like, and how does it differ to car-based SUVs like the BMW X5 and Mercedes GLE, which this is not. This is a body-on-frame four-wheel drive. We're going to be getting our first sample in today's video, so stay tuned. But before we get started, hit subscribe below. Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by Budget Direct. This is the interior of the new Lexus GX, and it's really different for Lexus. Contemporary Lexus cabins are usually quite organic with lots of curves, and that's not the aesthetic that the brand has gone for here in the GX. Instead, it's all about toughness, square edges, a design theme that matches the outside. And I think that's one thing you can say about the GX is that it is a very unified looking vehicle. I don't think this one was designed by committee. The front end, the rear end, and the cabin, they all seem to fit together really nicely. Now here in the Overtrail, it is a dark theme in the interior. For the Americans, they can only get a black interior with the Overtrail. We're yet to know details like that for Australia. But effectively, there'll be Luxo grade GXs, and then there'll be this Overtrail version, which is, it may or may not sit at the top of the range, but it is going to be for the people that actually intend to go off-roading, or at least look like they're going to go off-roading. So what do you get? Well, you get really lovely seats. Not sure if this is real leather or new luxe in this particular variant, but it feels very soft and plush. Perforated with seat cooling and seat heating, some cool detailing, and even some car key sort of suede material in the seat, which I absolutely love. Leather steering wheel, paddle shifters for the 10-speed automatic that matches to the 3.5 litre V6 down here. And then we've got a nice little driver's sort of canopy here, incorporating an inset digital display, full digital display for the dials, which looks great. And then a really big touchscreen over here for your wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, navigation, media. And you've got climate on screen, but some handy dials for the temperature, which is fine. That works just well enough. We do have controls down here for your 2-speed transfer case, drive modes, crawl control, that sort of thing, and then also physical controls on the steering wheel. So if what you prefer is buttons and knobs, the GX is still pretty good in that regard. Storage is quite plentiful, big box between the seats. Is that a fridge? It sure is. Cup holders, big door bins, and all in all, luxury materials abound. But Lexus's difference in this segment has always been build quality. Maybe it'll be a cut above rivals. Of course, we'll have to wait and see when we can get the car out on the road, which is also where we'll be able to listen to the Mark Levinson stereo that's available in this four-wheel drive. This is the second row of the GX. Being the Overtrail grade, that means this is a 5-seater, but the other grades will have 3 rows, as we've seen in specs for other markets. Of course, full specs for Australia are yet to come, including things like prices, but if I was to guess, maybe I'd say low 6 figures for a GX, given where the LX is positioned, but we'll have to wait and see. As for the backseat itself, legroom's good for myself at 6 foot. Headroom is also good, even though this car has a sunroof. Tow room is a bit constricted, but that's because this is not car-based, it's a four-wheel drive, so the floor is sitting a bit higher than in something like a Audi Q7. The doors are all covered in that soft material still. We do have window blinds as well, which is great for families. Air vents, rear seat heaters, USB-C ports, the lot, plus a flip-down armrest with a couple of cup holders. Around the back of the GX, we have one of my favorite features, which is separate opening glass, so you can pop stuff into the boot without having to wait for the full power tailgate. But of course you do have that feature being a Lexus. Decent amount of room, not impeded by a third row in the Overtrail, but all GXs also have an underslung spare. So setting off for my first ever drive in the new GX, Lexus has brought us straight to a pretty serious off-road course, which begins with some moguls to demonstrate a bunch of the four-wheel drive systems in the vehicle. We are in 4 low at the moment. There's a little electronic switch down here to move between high low and 4 low, so there's always all-wheel drive, but you can move to for low if you need to do so. Now the articulation is way beyond what you get in really any of this car's rivals, and that's because of the Prado underpinnings. And we've also got drive mode selection, which you can customize with rock, sand, a variety of other settings as well. So one thing that we've been demonstrating is just deliberately getting stuck and allowing the traction control to pull us through. So I actually don't have the rear diff locked. It's just the traction control actually sorting out our forward momentum just with a very light throttle. Now, of course, we didn't have the GX in Australia last time around, so I'm really comparing my reactions here to a Prado or to a 300 series Lexus LX or Toyota Land Cruiser, and it's the latter which the GX really feels most similar to. It's Prado in size and largely in width, although it is a little bit wider than an old GX or an old Prado, but it still has that wieldy size compared to a 300 series, which is just so wide that you're always getting pinstriping down the Duco on trails, which is less of a problem with the GX because it does have that wieldy, narrower size. Still feels pretty big in the cabin, but the view out is excellent. We've got this gorgeous square bonnet here and a high seating position, and you can really see everything. The mirrors too are very FJ Cruiser-esque, so you feel pretty cool sitting up here in the GX Overtrail. We've also got a multi-camera system in this big crisp bright screen. There's an under vehicle view, which is quite cool, so you can see if you've successfully navigated around a rock, for instance. We do have downhill assist, or hill descent control I should say, which is much quieter than before, but we also have crawl control here in the Overtrail, which the engineers are particularly proud of, the latest gen crawl control, which we need to engage now. So we're in crawl control now, which is basically like an off-road cruise control. We've got a little activation switch down here, and the mode select dial then becomes a speed setting. There's 5 settings, 1 to 5 kilometers per hour, so you're not going anywhere quickly, but what this is doing is it's letting you manage your speed, or I should say the vehicle manages your speed, so you can concentrate on the difficult bit, which is navigating around sharp rocks. And we're currently embarking over a genuinely really gnarly rock ascent and descent, the kind of thing which I would normally avoid in my own vehicle or even in a press vehicle, my goodness. But we are navigating over it, demonstrating some pretty solid articulation. There's good clearance on the Overtrail, there's lots of cladding, 18-inch all-terrain tyres, very knobbly, small wheels, so we haven't struggled at all. I mean, we are on a Lexus designed course here, so I'd be shocked if the vehicle couldn't make it. But they're not hiding from some genuine off-roading scenarios, and the GX feels easy. It feels easy to see out of. It feels very quiet and smooth. You can't hear any very, very quiet sounds from the actuation of the downhill assist. And the 3.5 V6 is very torquey at low RPMs, so we haven't really needed to get above 2,000 here. So those are my first impressions of the new Lexus GX, a hotly anticipated four-wheel drive coming to Australia in 2024. Now, we're only going to get the 3.5 litre turbo V6 at the start, so no hybrid GX initially. We'll have to see what happens on that front. But based on first impressions, it's actually quite a unique and cool vehicle in this segment, which is already saturated with car-based vehicles that are trying to handle like a station wagon. The GX is not doing that. It's trying to be a mini LX or a luxurious version of the Prado, and I think there's room for that back home. But now I want to know your opinion, so please let me know down below in the comments. While you're there, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and as always, thank you for watching Chasing Cars.